Bryan Stoller, has Ottawa always been your home?
No, I grew up in Peterborough, and I moved to Ottawa when I was 6. I went with my parents.
You went with your parents. How many other siblings do you have? Any other brothers?
No brothers. I've got 2 sisters. One is Marlene, who's married, and I've got a younger sister, Nancy, who is not married. She's 15.
And you've been in, how long in Ottawa again?
Geez, well, since I was 6, so it's been about
13 years.
13
years in Ottawa. When did you start going to movies?
When I was 13, I started into movies. So that was about 6 years ago.
How come you didn't start seeing them before you were 13?
Well, are you saying making them or seeing them?
Seeing them.
Well, I guess, I watched them on TV ever since I was little.
Oh, so you've been following films?
Yeah, but I didn't actually, I guess, start going to movies until, yeah, I guess 12 or 13.
Before you started going out to them.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy films?
Yeah, I do.
Certain kinds, perhaps, more than others?
Yeah, well, for me, to go to a movie, it's still a special occasion. So I don't, go every night, because then it's not a special occasion to go out every night. So the type of movies I like are the type of movies I like to see are the type of movies I'd like to make. Those are movies like King Kong, Star Wars, the Muppet movie, James Bond movies. Movies that have special effects or something different. Either it happens on another planet, or it's under the earth, or it's science fiction, or it's animated. Something that's not just everyday happenings. Sort of
What's your favorite film of all time?
My favorite film of all time.
It's really putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, the most recent favorite one, I think, would be Star Wars, probably.
You've got a lot of favorites, then, I presume. Eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Star Wars.
Star Wars because of the special effects, not particularly for the story. The story is so-so, but the effects and the costumes I like. I like the Muppet movie. I saw that. I like it. I guess I like the Muppet movie, mainly because of the shots, the way they make the puppets look real.
How do they move them in the Muppet movie? Now, first of all, in real life, Jim Henson, he does it. His hands are up in them because they're puppets.
Yeah.
They
don't. I don't think
you manipulate them with your fingers, right?
Yeah. I don't think they used any animation. They could have in points where, let's say, they have their eyes blink or something, which they didn't have. They didn't have to do. But no, all the puppets are either worked. The hands are worked by rods, and for far shots, they're held by strings. Close-ups are, with somebody's hand in the puppet. But, I was into puppets when I was about the age of, I guess around 7, 6 or 7, I was into string puppets and hand puppets.
Was that your first taste of the dramatic arts?
Yeah, I think so, because right after puppets, I got an interest for magic. I used to saw my sister in half and make her rise above the ground.
Saw your sister? What a charming brother. Let me touch you. What a charming brother to have.
My mom came downstairs one day, and I was halfway through, finished sawing my sister in half. And my sister looks and says, "Hi, Mom." My mom says, "What are you doing?"
So you're also a magician?
Yeah, I was.
You still do tricks?
Once in a while. In film, I do.
Yes, of course you are. You're doing tricks there. But I mean, you would go out to a party if someone invited you to do tricks, wouldn't you?
Not many people really know that I do magic anymore.
If they did,
it's been a long time.
If
they did, I could do a trick or two, maybe.
It's interesting that one of the greatest pioneers of cinema was a man named Georges Méliès, a Frenchman, and he was a magician. He got into movies around 1897, way back at the beginning in France. He was a magician. Houdini was into movies, too, in the 1920s. He was a magician. What is there about being a magician that lends itself well to getting into movies?
Maybe it's, I'd say, well, most magicians don't tell how they do their tricks. So what they're doing is they're creating an illusion to their audience. And people say, "How did you do that?" And they make it so that they believe it's actually happened. He makes an elephant disappear. They believe he made an elephant disappear. Well, it's sort of the same thing with film. When I create an illusion, I'm doing it on film in front of an audience, okay? The same as he's doing it in front of an audience, only mine is not live, it's taped, it's on film. And I'm just creating an illusion and getting people to believe what's happening is happening and have them say, "How did you do that?" But I won't tell them. Usually I won't tell them. It depends. Usually I won't tell them because good magicians don't tell their tricks.
No, I know they don't.
Good filmmakers don't tell their tricks to an extent. You can tell how it's done to an extent, but not,
These are some of your latest stars, and I'm wondering if you could tell our viewers something about how you create magic with them in one of your pictures.
Okay, well, these characters are from The Frog Prince. This is my latest 16mm movie. And I guess you can say that I combine the magic of puppets, you know, to make them move on film. And it's all a matter of single frame technique. Where
The puppets, remember earlier we were discussing, are moved by fingers that are in them.
Yeah.
Now that isn't how these are done.
No, this is a different form of puppets. Well, for instance, okay, these are called tabletop characters. And I guess the reason is because they're on a tabletop.
Show us how you'd move his arms and things like that.
Now, if this was a normal hand puppet, okay, it would be cut off at the waist and somebody would put their hand in it. But this isn't. This is a tabletop character, and it's got wires inside it so that it can bend and stay.
And then you
like
take
that.
a couple of frames?
Yeah, what I'll do is, let's say I want him to raise his arm. Okay, I'll move it a little bit, and I'll go to the camera and click 2 frames. Then I'll move the arm again, click 2 frames, go to the camera again, click 2 frames. And what it does is it creates the illusion of movement through the camera, and when the film comes back, my hand is not in the picture.
Because the camera wasn't on when you were moving it?
The camera was only recording when my hand wasn't there. So what you've got is those frames with the hand moving like that, and it creates the illusion that the hand is actually moving.
Do you work out mathematically and with a tape how far you move it each time? I guess you should really, shouldn't you?
Usually, when you're working with more than one person, you should usually, and more than one character. But since I usually, well, this film I did, you know, alone myself, so I really had in my mind how I wanted the characters to move. You know, whether I wanted him to, okay, he raises his arm, whether I want him to raise it fast or slow or whatever. It's in my mind how I want him to move.
Get him to open his mouth, because I just love that. Hello there. Well, hello there, Bryan. How nice to see you. This is Elwy, king of the castle. Boy, I'd like to... That's beautiful.
A fly just came.
A fly just... His tongue's going to come out in a moment, and he's going to nab that fly. What kind of equipment would... You're talking now for just a moment to all kinds of other young people out there that would love to make movies on tabletops in their base, like to build their little miniature jungles and things. Tell us about the equipment to make the picture.
Well, actually, you don't really need the most expensive equipment to do it. I mean, I've struggled the past few years with, you know, I've had limited equipment, you know. And now this film was done in 16 millimeter, but it could be done in Super 8 or 8 millimeter.
So use a camera, you're telling us.
Okay, the camera, you need a simple camera. It would help if it has a single frame unit, and that means that it clicks frame by frame.
Can we talk about Super 8?
Okay, Super 8.
And what is the cost of a good Super 8 camera?
Well, you can, I'd say $100 maybe.
Okay.
You can get a camera for $100.
With this single frame trick.
Yeah. A single frame. Most cameras have single frame on them. Okay, then you need a tripod. You definitely need a tripod because your camera has to be steady. Because if the camera moves, your characters are going to shake, and it'll look like there's an earthquake.
That must be one of your biggest problems in these things. You've got to keep the light right, don't you?
When I started making films, I couldn't afford a tripod. And you know what I used?
What?
I used a step ladder. And I put the camera on the different steps of the height I wanted it to be. I think I used the 6th step or something on the step ladder. And I just taped the camera down. Now, if the person is better off and can afford a tripod, you can get one for $26 or something like that. That's pretty well all you need is a camera, a tripod, and the film. And then you can make the characters from anything lying around the house or whatever.
But lights now, I'd like to know a little bit about what kinds of lights.
Okay, light. If you're using Ektachrome film, you don't need lights. You can use the normal lights inside the house, you know. Or
is it that sensitive?
Yeah,
now?
Well, Ektachrome is. But I would recommend that you do use movie lights. And you can either get photo flood lights, which are $3 a bulb, and you just put them in a photo flood socket. So that costs you $6. Or just a movie light. You can, just borrow a movie light from somebody or buy a movie light for $20.
If the viewers out there were interested in making their own cartoons, that is called two-dimensional animation, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like Walt Disney or the NFB when they make their cartoons.
Right.
What equipment would you need there?
For that, it's pretty much the same. You'll need a camera and a tripod and the film and lights, and then really all you would need is get some blank paper, some white paper. And it's just a matter of, it's the same technique in a way. You draw your character in one position, and then you take the next piece of paper and you draw the character in a different position, close to the last one.
How do you make sure those pages are exactly in the same, the character doesn't jump around?
Well, you have to get a light box or hold it up to a window even. And you overlap, you draw the character once on the paper.
No, I meant the papers. Each one you're going to photograph when you've got them all drawn. How do you make sure that each one is in the right position?
Okay. You take some masking tape and you mark maybe a square of the size of the paper, and you just put the paper in that size each time. Or the best way to do it is to punch the paper with three holes, you know, that you do for school.
Is that what they mean by pegging it?
Pegging it, yeah. And then what you do is, when you're drawing your drawings, you have them pegged, you have them lined up, and when you're filming it, you just put them down on a peg, and they fit right into the 3 holes on the paper. And they line up for sure.
What other kind, you were mentioning special effects, intrigues you and that you'd love one day? One of your great ambition is to become a director of such movies as When Worlds Collide. I suppose that'd be one,
Sure.
an Earthquake, and all that, because you're absolutely obsessed with the magic of motion pictures. What other special effects have you done in movies you've made?
Let's see. 6
years now since you made your first, isn't it?
There's been a lot. Well, the $6 Million Dog, which I did about 2.5 years ago. My dog Puppy, who is about so big, he's just a miniature lab, and we have him jump 6 feet in the air. We have him running at bionic speeds. We have him knocking over trees, breaking chains. That was the first movie that I threw. I think it was, yeah, the first movie that I threw a dummy from an apartment building. There's a scene where the big boss is thrown over. I think it was about 10 stories, and a lot of people who've seen that shot say, "How do you do that?" Because you see the big boss being thrown over, and you see him hanging onto the ledge, and then you see the other spy hit his hands, and you see him fall, and he holds his nose like this.
As he's
going
falling.
like this, yeah. And then you see a far shot of him falling, he hits the ground, and then the camera shows him on the ground. And people said, "How did you do that?" So I told them to an extent. I didn't want to reveal it completely. And the shot where you actually saw him falling, just when his hands left the ledge, that was a close-up of him really on the second floor. So when he fell, he landed in the awning below, you see. And then in the far shot, we threw the dummy off the 10th floor. So
what do you mean by close-up of him on the second floor? Explain what you mean.
Okay, you saw a far shot of them putting him over the balcony.
Okay, and that's the real man.
Yeah, and then you cut, actually it was my sister playing the midget.
Sister, a real
with the
girl.
mask on, yeah. And then there was a close-up of them hitting his hands, a close-up of him on the ledge, hitting his hands, and then you see him fall, and he holds his nose as if he's going swimming or something. And then the camera cuts to a far shot of the dummy falling. Well, the close-up was a very tight shot, and you couldn't tell what floor it was, because all, you know, an apartment building, all the
How did you get that
all
brush
the balconies
effect?
look the same. We just had the close-up, and we did this on the second floor balcony. And so when my sister fell, she fell into an awning below, which was only a couple feet. So when she fell, people thought she actually fell from
But what was her body doing when you took the close-up? This is what I'm trying to get straight. What was her body doing? Where was her body when you took your close-up?
right over the balcony, like holding on, over the ledge of the balcony, holding on.
But she wasn't moving.
And she was moving. She was like trying to hold on, and they were knocking her hands off, and she kept grabbing it. And then when she finally let go, she just, you saw her hands move, and
then we have the dummy falling.
Then you had the
I'm sorry, I
dummy.
thought you meant there was a shot of her face as she's falling in that picture.
No.
No, that's
That would have been her.
In the time we have left, tell me about the making of a dummy. How do you make a dummy?
How do you make a dummy? Well, if it's not one of your friends, it would be, well, I've got several. They're very easy to do. Okay, you take a stocking and you stuff it with newspaper. And you can do that for the feet, for instance. You put a pair of pants on it.
Then you stuff the pants.
Yeah, and then you take a pillow and you put a shirt on it. And then you take a balloon, okay, and that could be the head from a far shot. Another dummy that I made, he's 6 feet tall. His name is Gort. It's from the day the Earth stood still. I named him after that.
Right.
He's made out of 2 pieces of foam, rubber sort of thing. 2 slabs of it. I cut out the shape of a person, and I stuffed it with newspaper, and I just sewed the 2 halves together. So it's just a big...
And that's how you create, and of course, you sit there, you mad magician, with all your marvelous people out here, the grill and all the other souls. Well, Bryan Stoller, it's been a delight to talk to you, and to you down there in Ottawa, wherever you go, my heartiest
Glad to be
congrats
here.
for the future Bryan Stoller. Thank you very much indeed.